Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here with another awesome video. At least I hope it's awesome. The 30 Years' War, Battle of Freiburg, 1644. Oh, and before I get into this, I just want to say thank you, everybody. We hit 2,000 subscribers. That's awesome. I thought it would take me a lot longer to hit that, so appreciate everyone's support and appreciate you guys subscribing. So since I'm saying that, please hit the like and subscribe button right now, please and thank you. So yeah, said like I said, thank you and appreciate all you guys, appreciate all the love. Thank you very much. But for right now, we're on to the next chapter of a 30 Years War. Last episode we had basically it was like a France versus Spain kind of episode, and it kind of looked at the beginning like Spain might be might start to do some damage, but France had like a massacre of a battle there. Man, they had some info kind of leaked to them from like a deserter from like the Spain side, and they kind of went to the trees, came out of the trees, and I'm sure you guys have already watched it, so you guys know the deal. You guys know what happened. France kind of kicked some butt, and yeah, and France is a Catholic country, and they're on the Protestant side because I kind of forget the reasoning why, but it's a very odd war. I kind of think like religion right now in this war is kind of thrown out, and people are kind of just fighting for land at this point, you know. But I don't know. So Catholics and Protestants are all Christians, right? I just want to go ahead and apologize. I have no idea what the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant is. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm not a religious person, so I have no idea. So I'm sorry if if I shouldn't know the difference between the two. But you know, maybe that'd be kind of a good idea for future videos. Find like a cool video that kind of like describes, or a series that describes every religion. I don't know. But anyways, I don't want to start any kind of religious debate in the comments, with Protestant and Catholics. That's not what I'm here to. I'm just saying because I'm just trying to point out like if someone's thinking I should know something about why maybe Protestants are doing what they're doing or the Catholics are doing what they're doing. I just wanted to throw it out there. I don't know. I don't know. So, anyways, guys, but yes, why did I start on this religion thing? But I do believe, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you can believe in whatever you want. Whatever your heart desires, whatever it is you believe in, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, I'm all for it. Everyone should be able to, do their own thing and believe what they want to believe. So, anyways, like always getting distracted. Like, sorry guys. I gotta get back on the topic at hand. Topic at hand is the 30 Years' War, and it looks like maybe like France is gonna push into some more Spain territory. So yeah, and I got a spoiler in the comments, so I know that Spain doesn't lose this land in this war. Just because I've read a comment that they don't. So as long as that person is right, then I'm not expecting that. But I do believe this was like a big part in that whole dealio, of maybe them losing the land, because I don't know. We're gonna jump into this video and let's do it. Please hit that like and subscribe. And awesome. I forget the names of the people who that were in that battle last video. Yeah. We're gonna jump into this. We are going to jump into this. All right, guys. You guys ready? You guys ready? 3, 2, 1, bang.
The French have decisively won at Rocroi, and that has swung the pendulum of the 30 Years' War yet again.
Yep.
Their Swedish allies, commanded by Torstenson, have recovered from their earlier defeats and are now attacking the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, advancing further than even their legendary king Gustavus Adolphus.
Oh, really?
But is that enough to end the war? The Battle of Freiburg is going to prove that more blood has to flow. Shout out to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. We're happy to be partners with Brilliant, as this adds confidence and develop problem-solving skills crucial to Habsburg suffered during the 30 Years' War. Help your loved ones finish their day a little smarter.
I gotta cut that part off.
Rocroi was one of the most serious defeats the Habsburgs suffered during the 30 Years' War. It now seemed that nothing could stop Condé from taking over the Spanish Netherlands, as his opponent Jean de Bec's Spanish army was much smaller than that of the French prince. However, the Spanish Netherlands was a country of many dozens of fortified cities, so all Bec needed to do was reinforce the city Condé was going to attack.
Okay.
The latter went for Thienville, in the hopes of cutting the Spanish Netherlands from the Habsburg territory to the south. Bec managed to sneak in reinforcements before Condé besieged Thienville on June 16, 1643.
Man, like, that guy flew over there. Like, he knew he was going, I guess because he has, Condé had a bigger army, but man, he like flew down there, man. He knew what he was doing, and those guys moved fast, man. I guess, they're probably on horseback, and he probably had to walk there.
In reinforcements before Condé besieged Thienville on June 16, 1643. This allowed the city to withstand a 2-month siege. The campaigning season was coming to an end, so Condé abandoned the siege and returned to France. The leader of the
The siege. So is it like going for like, is it this is like a castle? This I did video on castles and stuff because siege are usually when you're trying to get into a castle or whatnot, or is it like kind of like a makeshift wall kind of just around? I don't know. It doesn't matter really, does it?
So Condé abandoned the siege and returned to France.
Okay.
The leader of the Dutch Republic, Frederick Henry, attempted to advance from the east, but Bec successfully bluffed him into thinking that the Spaniards received fresh troops, which forced the former to retreat. Despite this minor improvement in the situation, it was clear to the Spanish king, Philip IV, that the situation in the Netherlands was untenable. He needed all his troops to fight off the uprisings in Portugal and Catalonia, so Bec would get no help. Philip also basically broke his alliance with his Habsburg cousin Ferdinand.
Uprising in like Portugal. It's like foreshadowing here, Portugal, because Portugal breaks, I guess, kind of becomes its own country, Anyways.
Help. Philip also basically broke his alliance with his Habsburg cousin Ferdinand III and started peace negotiations with the Dutch Republic. Back west, the Swedish commander Torstenson was slow to exploit his recent decisive victory at Breitenfeld. In November of 1642, he besieged Leipzig and sent Königsmark towards Westphalia to distract the imperial forces in that area. The fall of Leipzig a month later was a serious blow to the Elector of Saxony, John George.
Man, I'm not even into this video yet. I keep pausing it. Leipzig, I just want to point out, man, that place, man, if I had to drop myself back in history, back in like, Germany area, or whatever, I would not be living in Leipzig. I mean, that town, that poor town, man, everything's, all these battles and just after all the videos I've done, man, doesn't exactly, pose well for the people who live there. So, yeah, poor people of Leipzig. Anyways, you're kind of cool. Like, I know a lot of you guys are from like over, all you guys who watch this, I noticed, actually live in Europe and stuff. So it'd be, I know for myself that if I lived there, it'd be kind of cool to see, just say I lived in like Dresden over here, just as an example. It'd be, for me, it'd be cool to kind of see, oh, my hometown is on the map. Cool, man. They're good. The army's going through where I live. I just think that'd be kind of cool for, That's how I think. I'm kind of curious for you guys. When you see your hometown maybe pop up for people who do live over there, do you guys kind of get like a sense of pride? Like, yeah, that's my town. Because I would, if I was doing like Canadian video and they were going through like my hometown or whatnot, I'd be like, yeah, that's right, kind of thing. Just kind of curious, if you guys you guys have to, right? Da-da.
Distract the imperial forces in that area. The fall of Leipzig a month later was a serious blow to the Elector of Saxony, John George. Torstenson's troops took Chemnitz in late December and started marching towards the crucial fortress of Freiburg, besieging it in early 1643. Meanwhile, the loser of the Battle of Breitenfeld, Archduke Leopold Wilhelm, had returned to Vienna, leaving his army under Piccolomini to be reformed at Reconitz. The latter was incredibly effective, and by January had 14,000 men available to help Freiburg. Indeed, Piccolomini's advance towards the fortress forced Torstenson to go into winter quarters. Piccolomini returned to Bohemia and was inexplicably removed from command in favour of Gallus. The campaign was renewed in late March as Torstenson attempted to invade Bohemia. A long series of maneuvers, marches and countermarches between his army and that of Gallus began and ran well into October, when Torstenson was able to reach Brunn and raided the area. His hope was that he might receive support for an attack from the largely Protestant Transylvania. Simultaneously, the Swedish commander sent a force under Königsmark to raid Franconia and then Saxony, in hopes that it would force the Imperials to divide their forces, while Gallus ordered Kraków to march into Pomerania via Brandenburg to weaken Sweden's hold over the region. Supported by a small Polish detachment, Kraków managed to take a few settlements. Gallus decided to reinforce him with cavalry under Puckheim, but Torstenson was able to destroy that group around Troppau. At the same time, Königsmark was commanded to engage Kraków, and by the end of September, the Imperial force was pushed into neutral Poland.
Wow.
Back in Moravia, Torstenson, who didn't get any help from Transylvania, lost all of his momentum besieging Jägendorf, and as Oxenstierna was planning to invade Denmark, he called the commander back north. Despite being Protestant and starting the 30 Years' War on the same side, Denmark and Sweden were natural rivals. The success of Sweden made Danish King Christian IV increase the tax for trade passing through the straits. Word leaked out that the Danes were negotiating an alliance with the Habsburgs, and that made the conflict that would later be known as the Torstenson War.
This is what I mean, it's like, it's not like now, it's like not even a war, Protestants versus, Catholics. Like, there's nothing to do with that. It seems like, because, Denmark's thinking about flipping sides based on, because, Sweden's getting more powerful and they might want some help because, the religion has nothing to do with it, It's kind of interesting, to see if things change here, I think maybe, again, become allies with Sweden, guys. Come on now. You guys are neighbors. Become allies. You got the same religion going on. Anyways, on with the video.
The Habsburgs, and that made the conflict that would later be known as the Torstenson War inevitable. Oxenstierna's plan was for Marshal Horn to attack from the north, Admiral Fleming to secure the Baltic Sea, and Torstenson to strike Jutland from the south.
Boys, we are not doing anything right now. We are just flipping. Yep.
Although Torstenson feared that his absence would allow Gallus to take back Silesia, Moravia and Saxony, he strengthened the fortresses in the area and publicly announced that he was retreating to Pomerania in order to confuse the enemy. The march north started in mid-November, and in late November he entered the Danish holdings in Holstein. Torstenson occupied a number of fortresses, and by January 20th, 1644, the Swedes were ready to invade Jutland.
Okay.
Leaving some troops to besiege Gluckstadt, Torstenson moved the rest to the narrow channel separating the mainland from the island of Funen, while Horn took the provinces of Halland and Scania, save for Malmö. Both Swedish generals needed Fleming to win the naval battle to take the Danish capital, but Christian took command of the fleet and defeated the Swedes in a number of naval engagements between February and July, most importantly at Kolbura Haida, in the aftermath of which Fleming was killed and the Swedish fleet was blockaded at Kiel.
Wow.
Simultaneously, Imperial commander in Westphalia, Hatzfeld, began threatening Torstenson from the southwest, and Gallus appeared from the southeast in July. The Swedish commander left Vranjel to secure Jutland and advanced south rapidly with what troops he had, using scorched earth tactics while retreating back to his initial positions. Gallus's troops suffered from the lack of supplies, and he wasted months worried that the Swedes might cross the Elbe. At the same time, Königsmark was sent south, drawing away Hatzfeld. The caution the Imperial commanders employed played against them, as Sweden entered an alliance with the Dutch, and their united navies finally defeated Christian at Fehmarn, crippling the Danish navy in the process.
Hold on a second. So the Dutch were on the Sweden side, then they kind of wanted to go to, the Royal Romans, side, and now they're like, no, we're gonna go back to, being, friends with Sweden. Interesting.
Christian at Fehmarn, crippling the Danish navy in the process.
One.
Although no major battles were fought between the Swedes and the Imperials in 1644, Gallus's mismanagement, famine, desertions and plague reduced his troops to a few thousand, and the Habsburg army basically ceased to exist. An alliance between Sweden and Transylvania was signed, with the prince of the latter, George I Rákóczi, was eager to support Torstenson's march against Vienna. However, we need to leave Torstenson for now and focus on the events in the west. The defense of the Holy Roman Empire in the Rhine region was mostly left to the Elector of Bavaria, Maximilian I, and his army, commanded by Franz von Mercy, managed to effectively destroy the French army under Ranso at Tuttlingen on November 24, 1643. This balanced the decisive French victory at Rocroi and gave Bavaria the initiative. After wintering in the area, Mercy took Überlingen in May and then besieged Huttenwil, planning to starve it out. This gave the new French commander of the theatre, Henri Turenne, time to organize his forces. Although he had 10,000 troops, mostly made up of Germans from Weimar, against 20,000 commanded by Mercy, Turenne crossed the Rhine on June 1st in 2 columns. By June 4th, Turenne was at Höfingen, and even defeated a small Bavarian detachment. Despite that, the French just didn't have enough troops to fight and started their retreat. Mercy left a small group to continue the siege and moved to the west, besieging Freiburg on the 26th, while Turenne set a camp at Betzenberg and started a series of skirmishes, killing a few hundred Imperial soldiers. However, all that was in vain, as Freiburg fell on the 29th. It seemed that all the French gains of 1638 were about to be reversed. Yet the French Prime Minister, Cardinal Mazarin,
Because what's so crazy, and I guess probably as part of the confusion of this war is, there's no head of the army for one side. I mean, there's a lot of, there's not one head, you chop one, you chop off the head, you win the war kind of thing. There's so many, there's so many different, it seems like generals everywhere. It doesn't matter if you kill one, another one pops up to take its place, and which must have been extremely frustrating for the people fighting this war. It's you might beat this general, but what's it going to do in the end? Someone else is going to pop up and you have to take them on. It's not like one country versus one country, where things get a lot more. It's very simple, The objective is very simple here. You have no idea who you're going to be facing the next day or who's going to, I don't know, because a whole bunch of different countries involved, and I don't know, man. I definitely understand why people think this is confusing because that confuses me. Well, 1 second. Sorry, my computer is making weird noises, so I had to unplug the speaker. But anyways, on with the show.
Had another idea. Duke of Orléans Gaston was assigned to lead the army in Flanders, and Condé was sent to the Rhine theatre and appointed as the commander of the German army. His 10,000 marched towards Turenne, reaching him on August 2nd, just 13 days after the appointment. As Mercy was forced to leave small detachments at Freiburg and Hottenwil, he now had 17,000 troops against 20,000 under Condé. Mercy probably knew that the usually rash Condé was going to attack directly, and he also lacked horses, which made a retreat difficult, so he started creating a fortified position to the southwest of Freiburg, an area that was favourable for this tactic, with its river valleys, hills and forests. The Schönberg Hill, which was impossible to form a line formation on, was central in this plan. Mercy's north was secured due to the river Dreisen, while on his right flank, his troops erected a line of palisades from Haslach to the western slopes of the Schönberg Hill, further defended by the Mooswald forest to the west. A sconce and a star fort were placed on the western edge of the hill to make scaling it even more costly. These fortifications, that could have put the likes of Julius Caesar to shame, were manned by 5 infantry regiments, 4,000 or so soldiers, supported by 5 guns.
It's kind of funny how they brought that, like exactly what I was thinking when they put out like the fortifications there, the kind of stop. It immediately made me think of the Caesar series I'm doing. So I think this is great that you brought that up because that's what came to my mind. And this is like so many. Well, this is like what, like 1,600 years later, from Caesar.
Regiments, 4,000 or so soldiers, supported by 5 guns. The imperial left was made up of 1,000 or so footmen, but that was enough, as they were defending a narrow passage, the Bahnstein, between Schönberg Hill and another forest to the east. That pass was also blocked by obstacles, but in general it wasn't expected that the French were going to attack here, as bypassing Schönberg would have their left flank open to attack. A small group was stationed on top of the hill to coordinate the 2 wings divided by the hill. The majority of the imperial troops, some 12,000, stayed in the main camp to the south of Haslach.
Man, this was already a complicated battle. I know what's going on, but man, like they have it all set up and everything, and I'm thinking like, what's gonna go wrong here? Like, they already said they don't expect them to come, to come from their left side, which makes me think that maybe they will. But this isn't even. It's not like I love the landscape that kind of makes this very complicated, kind of crazy battle. So it's kind of setting itself up to be really cool.
The French knew of these preparations. Turenne and Condé argued on the best course of action, and this was the precursor of the debates that would happen within the French military community for the next decades and centuries.
Elon, Fury, courage. We are not English, right? They're not going to make a movie about us if we bum rush and get killed. Oh man, that's great. Some humor. Unexpected. That's great.
That would happen within the French military community for the next decades and centuries.
Oh my god.
Turenne was advising not to engage Mercy's remarkable position directly, and to move north and then west, cutting the Imperial supply line to the north of Freiburg, which would have forced the Bavarian commander to retreat east, leaving his rear vulnerable to the charges of the superior French cavalry. However, Condé was in charge, and he believed that the Bavarians could be defeated with a frontal attack, so he overruled Turenne and other generals and ordered a direct assault on the 3rd of August.
Oh my gosh, should have listened to the other guy, right? I never think frontal attacks.
Turenne was sent to reconnoiter the enemy defences and found the Bannstein Pass. He was instructed to advance here with 5,000 footmen, while Condé would command 5,000 infantry and a few hundred cavalry against the Imperial right. 3,000 or so horsemen defended the left side of Condé's forces, and a few guns were set up on a small hill behind his positions, with the rest of the army in reserve between the two French commanders. The attack was to start at 5 p.m, which was another controversial decision. Turenne's forces had to march 4 hours before the fight, which tired them, and it was just hours before sunset, meaning that the French had mere hours to win the battle. Condé's offense started.
Man, Condé, man, like, maybe he's gonna prove me wrong right here, but in like the previous battle, with Spain, like he was kicking butt and made some great decisions. Right now, I'm not very keen on the decision making right now, so maybe he could prove me wrong.
Win the battle. Condé's offense started from the village of Ebringen against the village of Borg. This was the weakest link in the Imperial fortifications, since other redoubts weren't able to assist directly, and the French led by Espenor were able to overcome the wall despite enemy fire. Scaling the walls broke their formation, however, and the Imperial fire on the other side of the wall forced Condé's forces to retreat down the hill. This time, the French leader ordered D'Espinon to attack the southeast portion of the wall, with Tournon being sent against the southwest. Once again, the wall was taken, and once again the French were greeted by Bavarian fire. D'Espinon's already battered troops weren't able to resist for long. Most of them retreated downhill, while a group under Persson dispersed in the forest to the east. Soon, Tournon's units, who were disheartened by the Allied rout, fell back to Ebringen. The French were taking heavy casualties, but not nearly enough to change Condé's mind. The French general ordered a third attack, leaving only cavalry in reserve. For the third time, his troops surmounted the walls. However, this time, Bavarian cannons further north were finally turned and used against them, killing many. On the other hand, the defenders of Bull were running low on ammunition, and the troops, led personally by Condé, reached and attacked them. Simultaneously, Persson's regiment surprisingly managed to reform in the woods and joined the fight against the Imperial defences from the east. The defenders were overwhelmed and slaughtered.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Turenne's flank reached its position earlier than expected, headed by a vanguard of 1,000 musketeers under Roqueservier. Mercy's outpost sent word of their approach and informed the commander. Turenne probably knew that he was facing a minor force and attacked at 4:15 p.m, eager to break his foe before they were reinforced. The initial French advance pushed the defenders back, but Mercy, who considered this attack to be more dangerous than the one that was being openly prepared by Condé, arrived in time with 5,000 soldiers to push Roqueservier back, wounding the French leader in the process. Turenne's situation was bad. He had the numerical advantage, a cavalry reserve and artillery nearby, but wasn't able to use any of that due to the narrowness of the passage. Furthermore, he had to attack immediately in order to tie up enough of Mercy's forces to give Condé's attack a chance. So he moved to the front line and led the offense himself.
Really? Wow.
With no room to maneuver and use their advantages, the French were suffering heavy casualties, but continued to fight. At that moment, Conde's troops once again were moving north, this time to take Sternschanze. Reuchenberg, who was left in command by Mercy, mustered 2,000 and moved south to reinforce the redoubts on Schönberg. The two sides skirmished for an hour, but Reuchenberg, who clearly was a weak commander, decided that he couldn't defend the position without the southernmost defences and had to retreat.
Man, I think that was a big mistake. Obviously, he's not, like, I think they just say he's not like the best of commanders, but it seemed like they had the best position, like behind like walls there, and it looked like they could hold them off, man. But yeah, I guess not.
That he couldn't defend the position without the southernmost defences and had to retreat to the main camp. Conde, ever an opportunist, would have followed, but his troops were in terrible shape, and it was now dark and raining, so he called it a day after taking Sternschanze. The French now controlled Schönberg, mostly due to Conde's personal bravery. To the west, the dogged fighting continued until 4 a.m, when Mercy was informed that the hill was lost. This meant that his rear might be open to an attack, so the Imperial commander disengaged and moved back to the camp, leaving Turenne in control of the passage. The French lost almost 3,000 troops on this day, most of them on Turenne's flank. Imperial casualties were around 1,000. On August 4th, using the fact that Conde's army was exhausted, Mercy moved his army to the east and ordered his troops to create another line of defence based around the hills of Loreto and Gipfel. The Imperials were now defended by the Dreisam to the north and east, with Freiburg providing cover for their northern flank. Most of their infantry was on the hills, with the rest of the footmen and cavalry in reserve near the village of Adelhausen. As there was now parity in the number of troops for both sides, Mercy was sure of victory.
Yeah?
Conde took the main Imperial camp on the same day, while Turenne positioned his troops in Merzhausen. The French used the day to rest and tend to the wounded. There was still no agreement between their commanders, as Turenne wasn't eager to go on another frontal attack. Conde, however, was sure that Mercy's retreat on the 3rd was a rout, and that the fortifications on the hills were a bluff.
Come on, Conde.
I've always loved sci-fi.
Dude.
And the idea of being right on the edge of discovery.
Like, I don't have a military mind at all, but put your differences aside, man. Like, he wants to be the one with the plan and take all the glory from this battle. Like, yeah, we did it my way and we won. He doesn't want to listen, maybe to another plan, reason. It's like, he's got, his ego is kind of, I feel like his ego is kind of like, leading him astray here, Frontal attacks, man, you lose a lot of troops that way, I think you should try, think more, strategic and stuff like that, but.
The commander devised a plan to take the fortifications. His troops would charge up the Loreto Hill and tie up as many enemies as possible, while Turenne was to use the cover of the Becker Wood to cover his advance and then take Vornhalde, which would make the defence of the hills untenable and give the French victory. The French attack was supposed to start at 8 a.m. on the 5th of August, yet Conde and Turenne were suddenly informed of movement to the south of Vornhalde. Both commanders rode to their extreme right to personally scout the situation, as the Imperial presence in the area would mean that Turenne's right flank might be in danger and their plans were no good. However, Despinant, who was to command the French movement towards the Loreto Hill, didn't receive news of that, and his troops were too close to Mercy's forward redoubts. A group of dismounted dragoons was defending this position, and they opened fire at the advancing French. Although this wasn't the position Despinant had to attack, he ordered a unit to take it. In response, Mercy reinforced the redoubt. Despinant had to send in even more reinforcements, and the battle started.
Wow.
Lechelle's musketeers, tasked with taking the Becker Wood, thought that it was the signal to attack, but the Bavarian troops were still not distracted, so most of the Frenchmen who exited the forested area were killed on sight. Dormont, who had to charge here, moved forward in confusion, but immediately was greeted by Imperial volleys. The French were stopped in their tracks. The Imperials then counterattacked, pushing Dormont downhill. Condé, who was returning to his flank from reconnaissance, concentrated nearby forces and charged the advancing Bavarians, driving them away. The French commander then took over the troops of Dormont and moved against the enemy position at Von Halder. This attack was met by overwhelming musket and cannon fire, killing and wounding many Frenchmen, missing Condé only by chance. Luckily for the retreating Condé, the French centre, led by Turenne, attacked the centre of the Imperial fortifications, which forced Mercy to reinforce this position and allowed Condé and Despinant to disengage. The French lost more than 1,000 in that encounter battle, while Mercy's casualties were less than 300. Once again, Condé wasn't discouraged and ordered another attack. This time, Turenne was going to divert enemy attention to the south, while Despinant would take Loreto Hill. This assault began at 3 p.m. The French managed to scale the northern hill, but were promptly treated with bullets and cannonballs and were forced to fall back. The second wave was able to get closer to the redoubts, but once again was forced to run. The same fate awaited the
I mean, dude, you like attacked him like 5 times already and it hasn't worked. Like, at some point, you gotta be like, dude, maybe we should try something new. This is not working. Jeez. I feel so sorry for these poor soldiers, man. They're trying to attack and just doing what they're told, and they gotta be thinking, like, really? We're doing this again? Like, jeez. I mean, if it doesn't work the first time, I guess try again. I mean, by the third time, I'd be like, yeah, this ain't working. We should just do something new. Oh my God, man. Does this stuff ever get on your nerves when you watch this kind of stuff? Like, why are you doing this? I don't know.
to the redoubts, but once again was forced to run. The same fate awaited the third and fourth French waves, stubbornly sent uphill by Condé. The French commander decided to add another element to his attack.
Finally.
The third and fourth waves reformed and attacked the enemy fortifications from the west, while the dismounted dragoons, whose armour was heavier than those of the footmen, charged the Loreto Hill from the north. Initially, that worked as intended, with the Bavarians being pushed back and losing the redoubt. However, Mercy had his own cavalry reserve, and it was sent forth to attack the French dragoons from the right. This stopped the French advance. Condé attempted to turn the tide by sending his last reserves into the fray, but that was countered by Mercy's last reserves. This was a desperate fight.
Wow.
Slowly but surely, the Bavarians started to gain an upper hand and pushed the French downhill. Luckily for Condé, Turenne still had some cavalry reserves, and they moved left, blocking the Imperial pursuit. These horsemen defended the French footmen until nightfall. Condé lost another 2,000 men, bringing the total of his losses to 8,000, almost half of his army. The third day of the battle was the deadliest for Mercy, with more than 1,000 killed or wounded. Overall, he had lost 2,500 through 3 days of battle. Condé and Turenne spent the 6th fortifying their camp, worried that Mercy...
Condé, dude, like, your forces is like, you don't have the men anymore, I feel like, you know? I don't see how you win this now, man. You lost so many people with your frontal assault.
Condé and Turenne spent the 6th fortifying their camp, worried that Mercy, who now outnumbered them, was going to attack, but the latter proved to be too cautious, or maybe his army was also too battered to attack. Condé's bravery that gave him the brilliant victory at Rocroi was perfectly countered by Mercy, whose defensive strategy changed the balance of power in the war once again. But was that enough to save the empire? We will find out in the coming videos in this series, which will be released soon, so make sure you are subscribed.
So, save the empire. So, like, does this war, like, is the empire gonna, the Holy Roman Empire disappear after this war? Maybe. Is this where it ends? And cease to exist. I guess I'll find out. Obviously, but oh, that was a frustrating. That was for me. It was a frustrating battle. Like, dude, try something new. I feel like a broken record, but he was like a broken record. But let's keep going, 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 going. Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh God, another great episode. That was a great episode, even though it was frustrating me, but it was a great episode. Uh, Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I have no idea what's coming next. No idea. I mean, we're gonna have like another army brought up somewhere, another army brought up from a different area, and then they're gonna go at it again. I don't know. We might have 2 new leaders start next episode. I don't know. This war, man. Wow, never seen anything like this before. Anyways, hit that like and subscribe, please. Well, I choked to death. But anyways, guys, I do really appreciate you guys watching, and thank you very much. And yes, we will continue on. And what's next, guys? We always gotta look ahead, right? We got the Battle of Junkow, 1645. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know why I read on, because I know nothing about this war. I don't know none of the names or none of the cities. So yeah, I feel clueless. But anyways, guys, once again, thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. Appreciate all the love and all that awesome stuff. I hope you guys have a wonderful night, wonderful day. And I will catch you guys tomorrow with some more 30 Years War. Awesome series, frustrating, extremely frustrating, confusing, but it's awesome all in the same. You guys have a good night. I think I already said that. But anyways, peace, and catch you guys in future videos.